How about that? Ole Miss 28-21 victory over the Auburn Tigers. I picked 24-17. I was right around there. Ole Miss had a little bit of a dogfight, an incredibly sloppy first half. In the fourth quarter, we see what we've been seeing lately, and that is a suffocating defense and an offense that is resilient and making plays at the end of the game. Anyway, this is the Locked On Ole Miss postcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the new look Locked On Ole Miss postcast. I am Stephen Willis, and this is just gloriousness that I'm very happy that we did this. So this is what we're going to do tonight. We are going to talk about, this is back-to-back games that Pete Golding is giving up less than 300 yards in the game. Now, granted, Arkansas is not an offensive juggernaut. Auburn is not an offensive juggernaut, but that doesn't really matter. Okay. Ole Miss got the victory 28-21. They just kind of ran it out at the end of the game. The beginning of the game was a sloppy mess. And Jordan Watkins played the whole second half, which means during the bye week, all the drama of the injury and all of that, it turned out to be a little bit of much ado about nothing. Now, Jordan Watkins didn't catch a lot of passes, but he probably kept things interesting for the defense looking and opened up things for Trey Harris and John Judkins and those players as well. I'm really impressed going over to Jordan-Hare Stadium and getting a win. We talked about all week about how this game had the potential to get squirrely for Ole Miss football. And in the first half, this football absolutely was just a mess. It was just a mess offensively. Jackson Dart threw an interception. It was kind of a poor pass. I'm putting this one on Jackson Dart. Zachary Franklin got his hand on it. Popped up in the air. Donovan Kaufman, who, by the way, was a recruit that went to Vanderbilt. Ole Miss was recruiting him as well. He's out of New Orleans. Got an interception. Had like a 40 or 50-yard run, a short field that Auburn punched in for a touchdown. And Jarquez Hunter had an explosive run for a touchdown. And that was essentially Auburn's offense. Just nothing you could do. They could do nothing. At one point in the fourth quarter, Auburn had 5 first downs. 5. Sontarian did a fantastic job against Robbie Ashford whenever he came into the game. They just played run, put the spy in, and turned him loose. And the team did really well against Peyton Thorne. So let's look at these stats that are going on right now. Ole Miss played pretty well. So I'm sharing right here. So Jackson Dart was 10 of 17 for 202 yards, 11 touchdowns. Now, this offense's dependency on explosive plays is kind of concerning. We did not see the offense that Ole Miss ran against LSU, the quick game, stuff like that. We did not see that. Ole Miss was completely dependent on the explosive play. And Jackson Dart averaged 20 yards per completion in this game. Quinshawn went over 100 yards, averaged nearly 6 yards a carry. In homecoming, had a touchdown as well, just kind of holding it in. Ulysses Bentley, the fourth, 7 carries, 60 yards. Auburn was obviously keying on this player. Jackson Dart went 14 for 44, including a heck of a scramble, by the way, where he eluded a blitzer and ran a 15-yard first down. The leading receiver was Trey Harris, had 4 for 102. Caden Prieskorn had 2 for 63, played really well. Zachary Franklin, 2 for 15, and his first Ole Miss touchdown. And I got audio issues? Okay. My wife says there's audio issues. I do apologize for that. We'll see exactly what's going on at the moment. But there's not too much I can do about it. It's just a live stream, and sometime after the game, this program is just a little bit haywire. It just kind of is what it is. Charlie Parlick did have a interception in this game, which, by the way, was interesting. If you look at the team stats, This is what is interesting to me. Ole Miss again was not good on third down. They were 3 of 11 on third down, but they held Auburn to 4 of 14, so it was kind of a wash. Ole Miss ended up with 425 yards of offense, 202 yards passing, 223 yards rushing. They had some inopportune penalties. They ran the ball 56 times and threw the ball 18. That's kind of interesting as well. Time of possession, Ole Miss held the ball for 33 minutes. We talked about a major issue for Ole Miss will be having greater than 27 minutes of time of possession. Ole Miss kind of dominated that, mainly because Auburn just couldn't stay on the field. And that was interesting as well. Again, Auburn had 275 yards of offense, 2 touchdowns, had a pick by John Saunders on an ill-advised deep pass that was double covered, and then a double covered pass by Peyton Thorne in the end zone. And he was able to get the interception. They tried to challenge it, but they were looking at his right hand that got separated from the football, but it completely ignored the left hand that never moved and had complete control of the football, and it didn't move. So that's the reason that play kind of stood out as well. Really interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. And whenever you look at this Ole Miss team, what they can do moving forward, because now there's a whole lot of questions that we can start wondering. Now we have a defense that is completely better than anything that Ole Miss football has had since 2014. Think about that. 10 years. The 2014 defense that led the nation in scoring is the last time that Ole Miss had a defense this good. And if you look at what can happen moving forward, now Alabama coming back against Tennessee. Tennessee started playing like they're an underdog, and Alabama treated them like an underdog and just kind of pulled away in that game. And it happens to everybody. Ole Miss did that same thing a couple of weeks ago. That poor second half just kind of doomed them. So Ole Miss's route to the playoff, if you want to play that role, is they need to win out, period. If they win out, they are going to be somewhere around 4th. And we have a real situation to where 2007 could happen on steroids. And that means that we have no real idea what the top 4 is going to look like. Right now, 4 8 is only ahead of weird stuff is happening. North Carolina got beat by Virginia, so Ole Miss is going to move up at least one spot. Well, you think at least one spot. I don't know exactly how Oregon State is doing, but look at what's going on as well. Okay, thank you. Scorcher Gray said, yeah, this program, for whatever reason, audio-wise, can be weird. I don't have control. I do not have a roadcaster like most people that broadcast. I'm kind of at the pleasure of StreamYard and at the moment. So, okay. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad this thing got cleaned up a little bit. Let's see. John Riggs says, hey, Locked On, do you believe 23 Mississippi State football is similar to 2019 Ole Miss? I don't know. That's an interesting question. That is an interesting question. And I need to see something because 2019 Ole Miss had John Rice Plumlee and they had Matt Corral and you had like 5-star running backs and Snoop Connor, and there was a nice core that was there. And I don't know if Mississippi State has that. But we'll see. As they have Auburn, they can obviously stop that Auburn offense. They have a chance to win a couple of SEC games when legitimately coming into this game, I thought they were staring 0-8 in the face. Donna Taylor says our D was great tonight, and that is absolutely true. Pete Golding was worth every single dime that was spent by Ole Miss for a defensive coordinator. 2 games in a row, Ole Miss has given up less than 300 yards. And I don't care what the offense was. Ole Miss before wasn't doing that. There was a stretch when Wesley McGriff was the defensive coordinator when Ole Miss didn't give up less than 30 points in like 2 years. Whenever we gave up 24 to like an FCS program, it's like, oh, we're back defensively. This is different. This is effective. This is something we can hang our hat on. This defense probably needs to make Lane Kiffin do some soul searching. Because on a day when the offense is not quite up to their standards, which back-to-back, that has been the case at a certain point. Arkansas, they didn't quite look right. Against Auburn, they didn't quite look right in stretches. You can lean on this defense. There's no need to force a go for it on fourth down. I know people are team never punt and all of that, and fourth down plays are really exciting. But short fields give teams like Auburn hope. And Ole Miss was in a football game in the fourth quarter with Auburn, and they had no business being in a football game with Auburn in the fourth quarter. Period. Period. Auburn is not a very good football team. And even Auburn fans will tell you they're not a very good football team. Ole Miss was the better team in this game. The reason it got crazy is because it became a self-fulfilling prophecy that it was going to be a problem to play in that environment. And all of a sudden we're having operational penalties and our backup punter is throwing an interception and a whole bunch of crazy stuff is happening. And you look up at halftime, it's 14-14. And I figured at halftime, I said during my halftime video that I look like this game is probably going to go like the Georgia Tech game did. And that happened. And Ole Miss finally woke up and they made some plays in the passing game. And Jackson Dart absolutely made plays when he had to make. His pass to Caden Prieskorn, he couldn't have handed the ball to him 40 yards downfield better. The pass to Trey Harris on the fade, absolutely fantastic. Now, what I would like to see is some screens and some pop passes and things like that are very short. Now, Ole Miss tried to run them a couple of times, and they used their mesh concept, but they didn't really run it enough. They didn't do it enough. And there was a time that they would get into the run, pass, predictive play calling that we all know what can happen. Now, Jake Mitchell has a question. Why is third down so bad? Yeah, I have a theory on this. I really do have a theory on this. And that is we get first downs on first and second down. And usually when we're on third down, it's because it's 3rd and 15 and 3rd and 10. And that makes it difficult to get a conversion because good defenses scheme for that exact situation and it becomes difficult. So if we don't win first and second down, we're going to be in trouble on third down, if that makes sense a little bit. So let's see. Kiffin took over play calling late in the third quarter. No, we just got a first down. Kiffin cannot call plays. People wants to talk about that thing. Our offense runs too quickly for Kiffin to pay attention to that and the rest of the team. Charlie Weis is always going to have a role calling plays because he has to, because they want to play with tempo. Now, if we wanted to do the slowdown thing like Auburn did and have Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery alternate, yeah, that can happen, but it's kind of too quickly done right now for it to happen. Now, Kiffin does have input on plays, but it isn't a situation that because it worked, Kiffin called it, and because it didn't, it was Charlie Weis. I don't like that. And so Dart proved to be a baller away from the vault. Should he start to be taken as a Heisman dark horse? I think he is a really, really good quarterback. He is not going to win the Heisman this year. And he's going to be the reason Ole Miss wins a ton of games, but he's not going to win the Heisman. If you look at top 10 list, he is going to be well off of it. If you look at the top 10 to 15 quarterbacks for the 24 draft, he kind of doesn't pop up on there as well. Zach Tyler says, Stephen, buddy, this one feels great. I'm so proud of the guys, and for them to coming out with the win. The fan base deserves this win after how the scum Auburn fan base treated us. Yes, I'm expecting trolls tonight, and that's fine. They can troll me. But this week, I will say hardly any Auburn comments. Nobody wanted to write checks. Nobody wanted to do anything because they knew what was going to happen, that they knew Ole Miss was a better program, and that the only way they would win is if Ole Miss gave it to them, which Ole Miss tried to do in the first half, by the way. But Ole Miss did wake up and win the game. Ole Miss doesn't play for 24 months, at least, Auburn. And everybody should know that I am going to be a smug asshole for 24 months about this because I have a little bit of a long memory as well. Let's see. Dejon Anthony is an absolute beast and one of Ole Miss's best portal pickups on D. There is a ton of great portal pickups that Pete Golding got in the late transfer portal window. John Saunders is turning into a good pickup. Zamari Walton just completely locked down one side of the field. Dejon Anthony, you look at returners like Trey Washington's playing very well at that free safety role and replacing A.J. Finley. Then you look at the transfers that they came into the offensive line. Stephon Wynn played a ton tonight. J.J. Pegues played a ton tonight. This transfers on the defensive side of the ball really earned their salt a little bit. And I'm very impressed. And I don't want to call it right now that this is a defensive team, but we're at least a balanced team. But everybody's going to look at Ole Miss a singular direction, just like they always do. Lane Kiffin and the defense is going to do the best they can. Right now, this is a balanced defense and offensive team, and this Ole Miss team has a chance to go really, really far this season. And I've talked about all year how this is the most talented Ole Miss football team in my lifetime. But Ole Miss has Vanderbilt next Saturday, and I'm not going to look over Vanderbilt, but we are going to start having conversations about Texas A&M because we can. Texas A&M will be a tough game, and it'll be a big test for Pete Golding and that defense. And then you have Georgia, probably minus Brock Bowers, and that's the game. That's the game. If Ole Miss can win their next three and defeat Georgia to where you have ULM and Mississippi State to close it out, the playoff becomes a legit possibility for Ole Miss. Alabama needs to keep winning. What happened today against Tennessee helps Ole Miss. If Ole Miss is not going to go to Atlanta, which it doesn't look like they are, they need Alabama to win every game, and that's including against LSU. They need Alabama now to kind of run the table and honestly get to the SEC championship game and take out Georgia, to where Alabama and Ole Miss becomes the two representatives potentially for the playoff. Really interesting stuff, and it's weird that I'm even saying that. Willis says the lack of calling quick timing plays when Dart is struggling to getting comfortable and back in rhythm is such a red flag. Very concerning. Yeah, it really is. There needs to be some easy passes. There needs to be some bubbles. There needs to be some tunnels. There needs to be some pop passes, some hitches, some just go win routes to where you do like not even a slant. You're just diagonally coming in to where Jackson Dart can make a play on a Saturday. Because when Dart gets going, when he gets into a rhythm, this dude is the best quarterback that Ole Miss has had since Eli. When he's in a rhythm, he's better than Matt Corral ever was when he's on. When he's off, I think Matt might be a little bit better. I think the floor is below Matt. I think the ceiling is above Matt, if that makes sense at all. Let's see. Zach Tyler says, God, this win feels so good. Auburn's fan base is going to melt down. Their ego can't take it. The transfer linebackers are terrible, though. They can't tackle or cover that. No, that's not necessarily the case. It's not necessarily the case. I think the linebackers get a bad rap. They play pretty well tonight, and they do a decent job as double-A gap blitzings. Perkins is a stud. Yes, he's absolutely a stud. Jake Mitchell says, I love that we won, but come on, we look very much like a very poorly coached team. Penalties, poor play calling. I'm not being critical. I'm so proud of my team. Ole Miss won this game and covered in a place that Ole Miss doesn't win. Just be happy with the victory. It was going to get ugly. It was going to get sloppy just because everybody told Ole Miss's players all week about how difficult a place it was to play Jordan-Hare. We created a self-fulfilling prophecy to start that game. Once they got everything in control, they suffocated that offense. The confidence left that building. Ole Miss was able to pull away. We held Auburn less yardage than Georgia did. Yep. And definitely less running yards. The offense is bad too much. Lane better stop this craziness because A&M will beat the doors off of Ole Miss and so will Georgia. I don't know if you can say that. I do not know if you can say that, Glenn. Glenn Breland had that comment. I don't think anybody is beating the brakes off this Ole Miss team. Period. I think this Ole Miss team is just balanced enough that when the offense isn't going just right, the defense can pick up the slack. They're like a real top high-level football team that we've seen from other teams. And the interesting thing in this Auburn game that we talked about, this game was so much – I've seen this game reversed so many times where Ole Miss walks into a stadium and they play scrappy for 2 quarters and then the other team just out-talents it. They shut it down in the second half and pull away. I've seen a lot of those games. It's nice to go into Jordan-Hare and do that to Auburn. That feels pretty good. It doesn't matter the sloppiness that we play. Just look at the final result of what happened. Feels pretty good to do that to Auburn, to where we play like crap and we're still up 28-14 with a minute to go in the game or something like that. By the way, that was the worst onside kick I've ever seen. Well, not ever seen, because my onside kick was the worst onside kick, but that one was pretty terrible. It's like Auburn doesn't even practice, essentially. Let's see. Do I think UB3 is UB4? I should say. Chris Jackson says his running back one. He impressed me more than Judkins. Judkins was the dude tonight. I'm sorry, he was just that dude. Number 8, Cameron Hall asked, did number 8 on defense play? Where's TJ Dudley? I do not know where TJ Dudley is. Number 8 played special teams. I did see him make a tackle on a punt return. Mike Biggs asked, without a bad pass and an interception in the first half, the score would have been at worst 38-7. Yeah. Yeah, this was a game that Ole Miss could name the score. And Auburn was completely just at the mercy of Ole Miss football. Like I said, that right there feels pretty good. Dart missed a couple passes that could have helped break up the game. Interception was thrown behind, pass to Bentley, let him out of bounds. Good pass would have been a touchdown. Yes, the pass to Zachary Franklin, there was a couple of plays where they just didn't, the timing, the throw was just a little bit off. There was the interception play, and there was also an out pass that he was incomplete on third down in the first half. I genuinely think that's a timing issue. I think that'll get cleaned up as they play together. Zachary obviously was moving around well and is going to become a weapon for this offense moving forward. And also Jordan Watkins playing. I think we should just realize that maybe the media kind of blew out of proportion what happened. Maybe they were a little bit alarmist, potentially, because he played the whole second half. He returned punts. And if what it was said, there was no way this guy was going to play, because you can't necessarily deaden the hands. But, yeah, he played. Honestly, played pretty well. Did not have to catch a pass, but did have to catch a couple punts. Cheesy Crust Pizza says Dart played very well in the second half. Got off to a pretty poor start. He actually got off to a good start, and then the middle 2 quarters played poorly, and then played in the fourth quarter like just a baller. Just a really good quarterback. Hurston Williamson said, how much impact do you think Franklin makes in the future? I'm curious to think I hear about your opinions. He showed flashes tonight. Yes, I think Zachary Franklin is going to be fine. I think Zachary Franklin needs reps. I think they are going to try and use the hell out of him against Vanderbilt because they need timing and all that to be ready before A&M, who's victimizable in the secondary. Their front seven's pretty good, but they're victimizable in the secondary. And then Georgia's just Georgia. They're going to need Zachary Franklin and Jordan Watkins and Dayton Wade, all these guys. By the way, props to Braylon Brown, who got a good bit of playing time tonight. Him and Zachary Franklin were the people that alternated out there more than him and Aiden Williams. That was interesting. Let's see. Your buddy Zach said Auburn's roster is equal to Ole Miss's roster. I told him he's crazy, but you can't change people's mind. Yeah, they can't hear it. They can't hear it. Anybody that watched this game, they can't say that. I love Zach. He's a great dude. He's my buddy. Nobody can say that, period. Not an equal roster. Caleb Smith says pre-scoring was the key to this game. His blocking and second level made our offense work. Very, very good player. And he caught the ball. Anytime the ball was nearby, he made the catch. It was pretty impressive. Sean Neeson said they came out sloppy, typical coming off of a bye, but Dart got going late. Hotty tight. This is a resilient bunch right now. It's an absolute resilient bunch, and there's not really necessarily a ceiling of where this team can go this season. And I know that's going to make some Ole Miss fans uncomfortable. Okay? I know that's going to make some fans uncomfortable. But it's just what it is. There is not really a ceiling on this football team. Can we start calling this a top 25, top 30 defense yet? Yeah, I think we can. Now, there's two offenses that are really good that Ole Miss is going to play. Well, one offense that is schematically pretty good and one offense that is just pretty good. Vanderbilt, they throw the ball a lot. They're going to make the secondary work. A&M, they're schematically really good, but Max Johnson's limited. And Georgia's just a good offense because they have 5 stars all over the place. But that is where Pete Golding is going to make his work. But a top 25, top 30 defense, yeah. Yeah, I would absolutely say that. Brent Wells asked, why did you pick us to lose this game? He's in reference to my July picks when I did W's and L's. I picked us to lose this game because of the way we started. I knew we would end up starting this game and it would get weird. I thought Auburn was going to be better than what they are. I changed that pick to this week, by the way. This week, whenever I updated it, I did not pick Auburn to win the game. But in July, yes, I did. I thought this game was going to be weird, and I did the whole Brother Hugh thing, really wants this bad type story. But yeah. Serious question. Why did the game advertise at 6:30, but the time at that was the time the first quarter was over? The game started at 6 Central. Yeah. Game started at 6 Central. We keep finding ways to barely beat crappy teams. Georgia beat that same team 27-20. Ole Miss beat them 28-21. Literally the same game. Lots of criticism on this game, but ultimately what matters is we won. Yes. Take the stuff. They're going to get to go back to the film room and talk about all the stuff that they did wrong in a win, in a game, in a place that Ole Miss wins once a decade. In the 90s, they beat him one time. In the 2000s, they beat him one time. In the 2010s, they beat him one time. In the 2020s, they beat him one time. It's a hard place to win. Take the victory. Enjoy that. Arkansas versus Mississippi State being 7-3 is still funny as I don't know what. It was very 3-2 type vibes. It's one of the worst football games I've ever seen. It was terrible. The defense bailed our offense out this game. Defensive W, that should make Rebel Nation feel pretty good. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Last year, Ole Miss loses this game. Last year, Ole Miss loses to Tulane. Last year, Ole Miss is in a dogfight with Georgia Tech. Right now, if this is last year's team, They're what? 3-3 at best? Or 3-4? I forget how many they had. I think they're bowl eligible, by the way, and nobody cares about that, and that's a testament to Lane Kiffin. So it should be pretty good indeed. Wow, we got 250 people in here right now, so thank you for that. First time since 2008, we beat LSU and Auburn and Arkansas. Yeah. My dad always talks about the 3 A's Ole Miss has trouble with, and that's the Alabama, Auburn, and Arkansas. Ole Miss went 2-3 from that series, that second half against Alabama. We're really going to regret that. Once the Rebels stopped making mistakes by Auburn in the game, they took complete control. Joey Horn said that. Yeah. Ole Miss had a 2 or 3 times better football team than Auburn. Just period. I honestly do not know if Auburn had to play Georgia Tech, okay? If Auburn had to play Georgia Tech on a Saturday, let's say next Saturday, I'm not sure Georgia Tech wouldn't be favored. And Georgia Tech's not good. But this Auburn team is pretty bad. Pretty bad. Charles Vault says, yo, Steven, hottie damn toddy. Yes. Fantastic. Hottie toddy, Charles. It was pretty good. Glad to see Zakari get the first touchdown. Mike Biggs said that. You can tell that Auburn's defense just broke down in that fourth quarter. One of my what to watch fors that I did during the week was whether or not Ole Miss can have more than 27 minutes of time of possession. If Ole Miss did that, I predicted that you would get to the second and third players on defense for Auburn. And there's a drop-off with those guys. And you got there, and all of a sudden there were players open. There were runs happening. You could do almost whatever you wanted to do. Ron Roberts had his scheme that he ran with the Baylor Bears. He did basically the same defense that he did against Matt Corral in the Sugar Bowl. Ole Miss was able to handle it this time. Of course, Lane Kiffin generally, when he gets a second look at something, does a pretty decent job. Grind City Cards said Watkins had 2 plates in his hand. Good grief, this kid's tough, and he deserves all of the NIL businesses around Oxford. If that's true, he deserves all of the NIL. That's amazing. Fort Golson says good teams win the fourth quarter. Yeah, and this happens over and over again with this Ole Miss football team. It's crazy. With North Carolina losing at home to a 1-5 Virginia team, not Virginia Tech, Virginia. Maybe Ole Miss takes their spot at number 10. Potentially. I think the way they don't move up Alabama for whatever reason is weird. I am not used to seeing Alabama win games and not move, and that's happened like 4 straight weeks. Judkins absolutely balled tonight. Yes, this is his one time to play 55 miles from his home. All of his family was there. He was going to be jacked up for this game. It might not be a situation that he was trying to prove a point, but he was going to be jacked up from this game. Top level athletes are going to be jacked up when they play teams like this. Were you frustrated at how much Ole Miss was in the game until late in the fourth? Yes, I was frustrated. If you saw me on Twitter, you saw me just like positive vibes only. It's 14-14, but Auburn couldn't get a first down. That was the most inept offense I've seen. And besides what I saw in the State Arkansas game earlier today, there's some bad offenses right now in the SEC. Some really bad offense. Before we play at Georgia, we need to crank speakers in the vault because we had way too many penalties because our offensive players couldn't hear. Yeah. Bill Flowers says Auburn Stadium is probably the loudest that he dealt with in the SEC, by the way. So that's as bad as it's going to be. So we'll see. It's fun being a Rebels fan right now. They can outclass most of the teams they need. That is rare for Ole Miss. Yeah, this is new territory. This is the most talented football team that has existed in my lifetime. Period. Rex Thompson says this is a good win for the Rebel defense. It was outstanding And it really was. Pete Golding was worth every cent that Lane Kiffin offered him, and Keith Carter is paying him. Absolutely. Grind City Flip says, I'm glad we're done with this game because I hate the way Auburn pronounces Jordan-Hare. Yeah, I'm with you there, buddy. 6-1, big win for the Ole Miss Rebels. Let's see, James Mendoza. I have no idea why that's green. Love the show. Where do you think we'll end up in the AP poll? This is from James Mendoza. And at least 12th. They're doing this thing where they're in their head, the SEC is down. Okay. So the SEC does not get the credit that they normally have gotten. Now, I think Alabama should be around 7. I think Ole Miss should be around 10. And in a normal year, that would happen. But maybe a win at Jordan-Hare, they'll have, I don't know, some clout with that. So we'll see exactly how they go. But that offense was pretty good. Let's see. Charles Ball says, anyone wonder why everybody plays us like it's championship game? Well, Vanderbilt plays us that way because they think they can beat us. Auburn is doing that because they've had a rough stretch and they needed to turn it around. They're melting down like crazy. Vanderbilt is going to come in because historically they've done that. Grind City says, sorry, man, my stream was delayed. That's all good, man. Kiffin said it confidently on the sideline. We're a fourth quarter team, which we are. Let's see. We really made great adjustments at the half. We played much better in the second half. In the fourth quarter, I want to see the numbers of what we are in the fourth quarter this season. We have completely taken over football games against people in the fourth quarter. But there's really no other way to put it. Against everybody but Alabama, Ole Miss has taken over games in the fourth quarter. Think about that. And this is playing LSU. This is playing at Auburn. This is playing Arkansas. These are the normal conference big boys that Ole Miss deals with every year. And other than Alabama, Ole Miss has dominated the fourth quarter of every game they play. No matter who it was. Now, I mean, that's a testament to the resilience of this group. And it's also a testament to the leadership of Jackson Dart, because he is a different player when the lights go on the fourth quarter than he is like if he gets into a lull. Brent Will says, thank you for answering my comment. Tell the Discord folks they need to stop overreacting to every bad little thing that happens. Get more positive in there. Yeah, you're right. I haven't been in the Discord. I don't know how good it is, and everybody should go to the Discord and join the Discord if you are not. It's the coolest private message board in the Ole Miss sphere at the moment. John Rick says, I'm proud to watch this team win after what happened in 2022 with the 5 straight losses. It's awesome, man. Roger Mathis says this defense improves each and every week, and that is absolutely the case. We are seeing some pretty cool stuff right now. We are. The ceiling on this team is just through the roof, honestly. Mark Goner, do you think Jackson will elect for the draft, and what round do we think he'll go in 2025 if he seems like he's a top 5 2025 quarterback? Right now, Jackson Dart is not in the top 15 quarterbacks in 2024. I think we should assume that he stays, and he might be the best quarterback in the country for 2025. Just something to pay attention to there. Auburn versus Mississippi State is going to be a funny game. It already was. It was the 3-2 game. Does anyone know if Jackson Dart is going to go to the draft this year or next year? That we will not know that to the end of the year. This is a stacked draft class, and I right now I do not see him leaving. So it's a hard place to play. Roger Mathis says, had a hard time concentrating in my living room. Yeah, once it got a little sideways. Now, when I watched this game, I got concerned, but it was a different level of concern, if that makes sense. It was a different level of concern. And because I knew that if Ole Miss just cleaned it up and quit making stupid plays, they had severely more talented than the team that was on the other side of the ball. They were going to try hard. They were going to do whatever they can to win the ball game, but Ole Miss was just better. So I was a little bit more relaxed in this game than I would have been, say, against Alabama. I was not relaxed against Alabama. I was not relaxed against LSU, but I was kind of relaxed in this game. If we played them anywhere else, it would have been blowout. That is absolutely true. Donna Taylor did that one. Rebels survived, but sloppy offense. That first half was her first half was something. Nathan Hester with that comment as well. Why are we using a backup punter as a holder instead of one of our backup quarterbacks? Mainly because when the kickers are practicing, when everybody else is doing their thing, they're off doing their own thing, and the kickers hold the ball more often than anybody else. So they get the better opportunity to catch snaps and things like that. They have a feel for the kickers. But I understand what you're saying, because a situation like today wouldn't happen. Jeffrey Langley says, we need a punter. Yes. He had one really good punt, and I was all ready to come on here and talk about Frazier Messine and his amazing punt they had early in the game. Then he had like a 10-yard punt, and low line drives and the punting game problems kind of popped up. As bad as it's going to sound, you better start pulling or LSU or Auburn to beat Alabama. That's how we win the West if we went out. Ronnie, Ole Miss isn't going to Atlanta. I don't think anybody is going to beat out Alabama. There's not 2 losses on Alabama's schedule, in my opinion. Now, anything could happen. I think the path is Alabama winning out and Ole Miss winning out. That's the path at the moment. Roger Mathis says everyone is doing the same thing, pinching down between the tackles. Not sure they're baiting them now. They did some off-tackle stuff that got Quinshawn going in this game, and they need to do some more quick game stuff like they did against LSU. It's amazing how much that'll actually opening up the game if they do something like that. Frank Drakeman says, on a couple of deep balls tonight, Dart had check downs wide open. Do you think Kiffin and Weiss let him know? They will in film study. Yeah, he'll see that. AECP 2L, watching in person, route running was bad. Nobody was open most of the game. A lot of that problem is the fact that there's some plays that Ole Miss runs they have just a primary receiver, and there is no check down. You're down there to block downfield so you can complete a pass, a mesh route downfield, and you have blockers in front of you. That blew up in Ole Miss's face a couple of times as well. The game was Hunter versus Judkins, Auburn, and SIP kids. Yeah. Jarquez Hunter, he wanted this game pretty badly. He did. Cheesy Crust Pizza, I'm not sure Ole Miss can't beat Georgia. They can beat Georgia. It's not likely we get out with a W, but it's very possible. I've seen the media hype up the Dogs, but I think the Rebels will get out for that game. I also think Missouri is going to be good enough to where Georgia can't focus that game. You have a true sandwich game developing where Missouri is going to be really good and Georgia is going to have to be up for that game, then Ole Miss, and then the road game at Neyland Stadium. So that'll be pretty interesting as well. If you beat a number 1 Georgia, it'll be super hard not to let us in. Yeah, I think that's the path. 11-1, and with a victory over Georgia. See, 10 quarterbacks and we're punters instead of quarterbacks to hold. Yeah, it just kind of bopped up and beat us. I can't believe the guy intercepted that ball, because I think if he would have just let it go incomplete, they would have gotten some additional, I don't know, field position. The Rebels will have to take it week by week to get to Georgia, but that's a gettable game. Yeah, the Vanderbilt game is going to be unbelievably tricky, because I can guarantee you on my show next week I'm going to be talking about the Texas A&M game. But even though Vanderbilt is coming up on the schedule that week. So we'll talk about Vanderbilt. We'll do keys, but we need to worry about this offense and get it fixed. The defense is going to get better and better and better. And the defense is at the point where they're winning football games for Ole Miss at the moment. Y'all remember the last time we played Georgia and Oxford? We kicked their tails. They'll be after us. Ohio State looked good today. Matthew Irvin, I hope Austin Keys is having fun at Auburn. Yeah, his face mask tonight was pretty good. Yeah, and him doing the Joker stuff is very Leo Lewis type stuff. Yeah, he kind of fits in at the moment. And let's see. How many rushing yards does Judkins have right now? I think it's somewhere around 600. He's at right about 1,000 yards per game. And against Vanderbilt, it'll go up pretty well. Gary Rasco says, I had no idea knowing that Golding played football at Delta State. Yeah, I think he played for Ron Roberts. And then you also have Dave Aranda from that Delta State tree. Delta State defensive minds, there's some good football coach that is coming out of there. Let's see. Mark Gonter says, thanks for answering my question. I followed Ole Miss for a long time and opened Bowman Football 2022 and pulled a Jackson Dart. All right. Do you think Austin Simmons will be the starter when Jackson Dart leaves for the draft this year or next year? I don't know. I genuinely don't know because Walker Howard's still there. You have so many dang 5-stars that are sitting in the wings. It's ridiculous what this room looks like. Now, if Jackson Dart comes back, I think there's a possibility that Austin Simmons goes somewhere else. But if that case, you have Walker Howard that is going to be the heir apparent. So Ole Miss is going to be fine either way. Let's see. If Ole Miss, Alabama, and LSU all went out, we win the three-way tie. Yeah, potentially. But that's 3 teams that are going to go 7-1. And then if it's not 7-1, the math changes a little bit. One thing I noticed this weekend and week out is the support Spencer Sanders gives on the sideline. This dude can start for a lot of teams. Yes, the personnel decision of Lane Kiffin of the year was keeping Spencer Sanders from going to Auburn. Can you imagine Spencer Sanders on that Auburn team? I'm not saying Auburn would be good, but they'd be better. Right now, they're not good, but they'd be better then. Hudson Albert says, honest opinion, what do you think about the play calling? We seem to struggle on half drives when players seem confused and we seem to figure it out on others. This offense, as somebody said on Twitter, is kind of big play dependent. They struggle when they don't get a first down to start a drive, and they don't seem to have a plan B for right at the moment that something doesn't work. There's no plan B that they can just instantly rely on. So I think that's the reason it takes a little bit of time. The middle 8 minutes of the game, that is the struggle point for Ole Miss football right now. The middle 8 minutes. Now, we didn't fall into the trap today, but traditionally, that seems to be the lull time. Dart has not looked right or himself since the first quarter of the Arkansas game. Something is not right about him. No, I think he just got fooled a little bit tonight. I think there is some stuff that's problematic. I think Dart's fine. Genuinely. I think he's fine. Great win, Ole Miss. I was cheering for you. Roll, Tide, roll. Yes, I'm sure an Alabama fan got in there. I just hate that Ole Miss didn't 42-10 this one. That was deserved with the way they acted, honestly. That 42-10 type game would have been pretty good to see. So, Nathan Hester says, sometimes I wonder about our play calling. Yeah, right now there's just no plan B. And I think the reasoning of that is probably how they call plays. Not necessarily a bad thing, but kind of is what it is. Now, Let's talk about moving forward a little bit before I get out of here in about 10 minutes. And thank you. We're up to nearly 300 viewers at the moment. So I do want to say that Ole Miss is going to probably be a 15 to 20 point favorite over Vanderbilt. Ole Miss is probably going to be a 7 to 8 point favorite over Texas A&M. Georgia is probably going to be about a 10 point favorite over Ole Miss. I think that is what we're looking for in the immediate time frame. Randy Cross says, man, I watch this channel every day as soon as the videos come out. You give me the things to look for. Thank you. Randy, thank you so much for doing it. And tell a friend, invite a friend to subscribe to the channel, because if we hit, or not if we hit, we're going to hit it in about, 3 weeks. But once we hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Once we hit 5,000 subscribers, we're going to do a weekly live stream that's separate from games. So it won't be a postcast like this or a big announcement type thing that we've done. It'll be a scheduled show that's like Thursday night or something like that. Could be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I don't know exactly which day it's going to be right now. But we are going to do a live stream where we just get on there for an hour, and just kind of go back and forth and have fun. And man, now USC is probably going to jump, or Utah is probably going to jump Ole Miss. So everybody be prepared for that. I'm telling you, I have zero faith right now in what's going on, but USC is fraudulent. They just genuinely are. I would be recruiting people, Steve, but everybody I know is already subscribed. Thank you very much, Mike. But yeah, Alabama and Ole Miss should absolutely enter the top 10. That's from Nathan Hester. But you can see by the way this show looks, we are getting ready for a different look with our live streams. It's going to look a little bit different than our Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and it should be a lot of fun. Should be fun. Utah with a 17th string quarterback just beat USC on USC's field. That's like 3 straight times that USC has lost to Utah. James Mendoza, are you able to go live for a game? That would be cool if you could. I can, but I can't show the broadcast, so it would just be me. And I don't know if that happens. That's amazing. Jordan did confirm, had 2 plates in his hand, and he got that on Twitter. Okay, everybody needs to get, just whoever has a business. Justin Bailey, the pickle guy of Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles, give this guy some NIL money. He deserves it. He can be like your social media spokesperson for your Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles. Dead Soxy, Jason Simmons. Yeah, Jordan Watkins can be your dude. He deserves it. My goodness. If he's playing a football game 8 days from surgery to insert plates, give this guy all the NIL money. He deserves it, honestly. All right, Randy Cross says, what are the chances for Ole Miss in the playoffs? And that'll tell me if they beat Georgia. If they beat Georgia, I think they go 11-1 and they have just as good a chance as anybody else. Honestly, think they finish 5th because I just assume that the national media will screw over Ole Miss. Running the same play after a successful running play has never been successful. I remember you got a point there. Captain Jim 44 Smith with that one. They need to figure out something else. Donna Taylor, I absolutely love this show. I'm addicted. Thank you, Donna. You are awesome. You are fantastic. There are lots of streams from YouTubers watching NFL games. Yeah, I'm sure there is. I don't know if I could be good at that by myself. I think I get very quiet when I get nervous. And watching an Ole Miss game, as you would imagine, I get nervous quite a bit. I'm pretty cocky most of the time, but during a game, I can get a little nervous. Roger Mathis says the media wants the SEC to be down just to justify their personal narrative. Next year, it'll be the SEC and a group of everybody else. Yep. Reeves Music says Utah will jump Ole Miss. Just watch. Yep. That Oregon State jumped them last week. Oregon State jumped them last year. USC is fraudulent, though. USC is fraudulent. Quinshawn has swept Auburn and had over 100 yards rushing and TDs in each game he plays. He owns them. Yes. They dropped the ball recruiting him, and I don't care what anybody says. He was ready for it. Most fans will be watching the game anyways. Yeah. Let me think about it. The next thing I'm trying to set up, by the way, the next thing I'm trying to set up is I'm planning to do it looks like Ole Miss is going to a Florida bowl game, potentially, if it goes either the Orange Bowl or the Citrus Bowl or the ReliaQuest or the Gate. It looks like Ole Miss is going to be down here. I'm going to go to that game and I'll do my show remotely from there. And I'm going to figure out a way to get sponsorship for that when we do that. And then the Under Armour All-American game, the same thing. I'll be there and I'll do remote shows from the Under Armour All-American practices and get interviews and such with the Ole Miss players that are in that game. Because there's at least one, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be more than one. Watch USC stay in the top 25. Yeah, they're fraudulent. They better not. Corey Ward says, I have a 6-month-old daughter that was loving watching the game in the first quarter. Yeah, with the way that offense was moving, yeah, I don't necessarily blame her. Will England says, I want an NY6 bowl. If Ole Miss goes 10-2, they're going to an NY6 bowl. Either the Peach Bowl or the Orange Bowl, they're going to an NY6 bowl. I'm wondering, do you think the holding calls at the beginning of the game were phantom? Mike Biggs. I don't want to say yes, because that comes across, somebody told me I come across towards officiating sour grapes. But I do think that other teams get a pass when Ole Miss doesn't. Next year, Ole Miss schedule is brutal as AF. Wow. Next year, Ole Miss's schedule is actually no Alabama, no Auburn. Yeah, they just get Oklahoma and Georgia, so it's a pretty standard schedule. Let's say Ole Miss wins out and some of these inferior conferences lose a game. Does Ole Miss jump them even without a trip to Atlanta? That's the $500 question, isn't it? That is the $500 question. So if we get Vandy and A&M, do you think Georgia E? Okay, I don't know what E is, Jamie. If we get Georgia and Vandy and Georgia will be game day if Ole Miss beats Vandy and A&M. I think that's what he's asking. Ole Miss and Georgia in that situation would be game day because you're looking at an Ole Miss team that's probably 7th in the country going up against the number 1 ranked team in the country. Stacey Robinson and Jared Ivey was a beast. Auntie and Mom. Yes, Jared Ivey is, of course, a beast. He played a phenomenal game, and that's close to his hometown. Very happy for Jared Ivey. At the defensive end, he's just been a beast moving forward. Where is this Clemson transfer? His eligibility, nobody said anything about that. Chris Graves has been playing the Miami transfer, but his eligibility never came through. And Stacey Robinson, like I said, the Ivies and that whole family, there are people. I'll always have your back, just period. And tell Miss Tracy I said hi. So, all right. We've been doing this an hour. Thank you very, very much. This will be up for people to look at tomorrow and all of that. And we will do our what we learned episode for Monday. We'll do our keys for Tuesday, our what to watch for Wednesday. There's not really a crossover because there's not a Locked On Vandy show. So I may get creative with that Thursday show. And I may get Corey Burton to do Thursday's show because he's the tight ends coach at Ensworth High School, and Ole Miss just put out a couple of offers at that school. So I'm interested about that. But all of this is going to go on. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep doing what all we do, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to make sure that you have fun. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you have, please tell a friend. If you tell one person, we are doing something that nobody could ever do at Ole Miss. That growth would be absolutely phenomenal. And I just want to say thank you so much for how much we've grown so far. And I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to you and all of that. So thank you very much. We will talk to you tomorrow. Ole Miss, a 28-21 win over the Auburn Tigers on the Plains. Hotty toddy, everyone. Really, really fired up stuff. Awesome. Take care.